Public Safety Committee to order. The clerk will please call the roll.
Councilor Cormier,
Present.
Councilor Gardner, present, and Councilor Heath.
Present.
All right, first item on the agenda, review and approval of meeting minutes for December 15th, 2023, January 12th, 2024, February 5th, 2024, March 15th, 2024, April 16th, 2024, May 17th, 2024, and June 21st, 2024. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to accept all 7 sets of minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Harden, second by Councilor Heath to accept the minutes as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is departmental updates. We will start with the building department.
Morning, councilors. All right, so I will be as brief as possible. We've got a few bullet points. Building department, the status of the department overall is still pretty healthy. We hired one local inspector. As you know, we struggled to hire an inspector last year. Hired one local inspector. Our other local inspector resigned and moved on to the town of Winchendon. So we're still kind of back in that same boat, still looking for another inspector. The new inspector we have has caught on really fast. He's doing a great job. He's trusted out there in the field. Really good. So, but we are still looking for another inspector to be staffed appropriately. Complaints overall throughout the city are up about 40% from last year. Those complaints involve zoning complaints, chickens, working without permits, various types of zoning violations, neighbor on neighbor complaints. That takes up a fair amount of time away from the building side, performing those investigations. We have made, one of my things that was on my agenda when I first took office was to bring the city into compliance with periodic inspections. We're seeing great success with that now. We're focusing primarily on the higher hazard areas, areas where people congregate. So churches, schools, daycares, things of that nature. We're really close to having the entire city into compliance with those types of areas, and then we'll start transitioning on to like multifamily housing, things like that. So we've actually made some really good progress in that area. Accessory dwelling units is something that's going to be coming down the line next year in February. So the housing bond bill has rewritten the rules for accessory dwelling units throughout the state of Massachusetts. We are in the process of rewriting sections of our zoning ordinance now in order to comply with those. Towards the end of October, we'll get some more guidance from the state, but that's going to change our zoning significantly throughout the city. But we'll give updates on that as we get more information and we work through that process. But that'll have to go to zoning. Go to council for approval to write that in.
The definition of accessory dwelling unit is?
So an accessory dwelling unit, so that's the technical term, or the legal term for it. In-law apartment is what people mostly call it. In-law apartments are intended to, and they're designed to have a child or an in-law or a parent live in them. Those requirements are going to be removed. Plus, we're going to have, they're going to be permitted by right in residential districts. So how exactly that gets written is something that we're still working on. So we're still waiting on some guidance from the state, but we'll start seeing more and more of those appear either accessory in an accessory structure or within the primary dwelling of the building. But that entire section of the zoning will have to be rewritten to accommodate that. The new building code is in effect now. Took effect October 11th. There's a concurrency period through the end of the year where contractors can use either the new version, the 10th edition, or the 9th edition. January 1st, it's the 10th edition only. We're in a great position now to be able to enforce the new building code, having purchased all of the new code cycle already. So the entire department has the new code cycle. The only thing that we're waiting on is the mass amendments to be released. Once those are released, we'll purchase those, and then we'll be in a good spot to enforce the new building code. But there are some significant changes in there as well. The MDTs in the trucks, when we upfitted the trucks, that was one of the things I came to council for the funding for that. That has proven to be a huge success for us. The feedback that I'm getting from the inspectors is only positive. It allows them to do their entire job remotely from the field. Everything they have access to in the office, they have access to out in the field. So it's allowing them to do their entire job right from the truck, if need be. It's really critical when they're following up on complaints and performing those investigations. They can do everything right there and have all the information. So that was a invaluable investment for us, and that's the new standard moving forward. OpenGov continuing to add additional applications and forms and tweak the ones that we have to make it as user-friendly as possible for the public. The overall feedback for that has been pretty good. But that's our primary format for permitting and communication with the building department and other departments. So we're still adding more and more monthly to that. Still in need of a new code enforcement vehicle. We have one that is nearing the end of its useful life. Probably has about one inspection left in it. So that's something that we're going to continue to come back to council for as we get towards the end of the year. So that was on my proposal last year. It's going to be on it again this year. We're looking primarily hybrid, maybe electric, as we're looking at some of the electrical improvements around City Hall. Whatever is most cost effective for the city and whatever is the best fit is what we're ultimately going to be looking for. Our snow removal equipment that we got for City Hall maintenance, that has arrived. That's going to increase the maintenance department's ability to ensure that City Hall and the grounds here are clean and free of debris and as safe as possible for our constituents coming in. That was a significant investment along with all of the lawn care equipment that we have. We've gotten really good feedback on how the city, on how at least the property looks. So we're looking forward to implementing that new equipment and getting that into use and keeping this place clear and safe. That's all I got for you guys.
Any questions?
Yeah, I just had, thank you.
Sure.
But I just had a quick question about the building codes. What's the biggest changes? Not all of them, just like the biggest. I
Yeah.
think you said significant. So.
Yeah, so some of the significant changes are going to be to periodic inspections. The types of structures that get inspections, we're adding types of structures. So additional residential structures, short-term uses of residential structures are added in there for periodic inspections. Sprinkler requirements currently for boarding houses, congregate living facilities, things of that nature. Sober homes is kind of the common vernacular for that. The fire department can order sprinklers on those buildings now. In the new code, the building department can order it, and it's retroactive back to 2017. So 2017 is when we implemented the taxation on those types of homes. So now both agencies will be able to order the sprinklers on it. So that's a big help for us as well. Lots of how big you can build a structure, height and area requirements are changing as well. But the bulk of it is going to be in Chapter 1, which is the enforcing section.
Awesome. And then as far as like the in-laws, are they gonna be required, kitchens, bathrooms?
Yeah, so an accessory dwelling unit by nature is designed to have full living arrangements independent of the primary dwelling or principal dwelling. So bathroom, kitchen, sleeping areas can be in the form of like a studio apartment where you kind of have the living room and the sleeping area. The language currently is, or what it will be, is 900 square feet or half of the principal dwelling, whichever is smaller. So you can have one by right, more than one by special permit. We don't know who the special permit is going to be by. So I think the state's leaving that up to the municipalities to write that. Probably going to be zoning board for that. The biggest change is currently the owner of the property has to submit a notarized letter stating that they will reside in one of the two dwellings. They no longer have to do that. So now the owner is no longer required to reside in either dwelling.
All right, well, thank you for the explanation.
Sure.
I just feel like there's gonna be some people at home who are gonna hear it and they're gonna want details.
Yeah.
Rather than you get a bunch of emails, you explaining it would be a lot better.
Yeah, sure. So,
That's why I asked the question.
so that's really just the tip of the iceberg. There's still more to come. I've got to stress that. It hasn't been ironed out. We have the guidance. we will still have to write it into our zoning. Essentially, it's by right. Currently, it's by right within the principal dwelling and by special permit in an accessory structure. It's no longer going to be the case. But there are other health code requirements and DPW requirements, et cetera, that will have to be implemented. So there's still more to come on that. We should have that towards the end of the year.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Back up to police.
Morning, councils.
Good morning.
It's been a busy summer for us. A lot of programming through our community policing program and community outreach. The school year has been a busy one to start. Currently, I attended a graduation yesterday, academy graduation for one of our officers out in Holyoke. That brings us, he starts Monday. That brings us to one short. We are currently, this is where the cover letters and resumes close today, for our first position outside of civil service. We have, I believe, 12 applicants so far. We haven't looked through them yet or anything like that. We're just still accepting. They closed today. So we'll be taking a look at those probably the start of next week. And there's a potential we could be at full staff possibly by the beginning of January, which we haven't been at in over 5 years. So I won't jinx that or anything, but we're hopeful of that. So let's see, I'm currently attempting to train the entire department in CIT, critical incident. It's a mental health piece, helping. What the issue was is that the officers, the training they receive in the academy and the training they receive in the street, there's some gaps there for mental health training. We're trying to bring that up, and I want to bring it up across the board for the entire department, because we do see a lot of mental health pieces in the calls that we go on. So I want to make sure our officers are adequately prepared for what they're seeing now. And this CIT program, we work with Open Sky and CSO, and I feel it's been very successful so far. A lot of the officers who are trained in it, they learn a lot of the pieces that we don't learn through the academy, like how to speak to somebody or how to talk to somebody in crisis, things like that. And again, I think so far it's been pretty successful for us. So personnel-wise, police side, we're good. Training is good. We're hosting another CIT class here the week before Thanksgiving. That should bring me up to over half the department trained at this point in time. So we're getting there. It is a 40-hour class, so it is a kind of a financial piece to it too, so we're kind of staggering it in the best we can. Grants. We just applied for a body camera grant. This is something that's kind of been on our radar for the last few years. We are the currently only agency in this area that does not have body cameras. I think it's an important piece. Transparency, obviously, accountability, but I think in general it's a best practice, and we have a demonstration the week after next with one company. We're getting bids at this point, so we'll probably be coming to the council for supplemental funding shortly to fund that. It's not an inexpensive endeavor, but I think it's worthwhile for the community. So you'll be hearing more about that in the coming months. So we received additional money from Shannon, in addition to the almost $50,000 we normally get from them. That provides funding for a lot of our programs, community outreach programs. We're going to be doing some more programming down at Old English Village to assist in public housing. Some programs for the kids down there, things like that. Lieutenant Chesnowski's working on some programs now down there, so we're pretty happy about that. We received another new municipal road safety grant. Part of the pieces of the funding is equipment, and we receive a lot of requests for flashing signs, and I'm sure you do as well from some of your constituents. We're doing the best we can. They're not cheap. This grant will give us 2, so we're gonna try to figure out some areas where we receive the most complaints and put them in those areas. Some of the issues with that, though, is you need sun to charge the batteries, so you can't put them in a shaded area, things like that, so, but we're working on that. Again, I know I've said this before, our fleet is in decent condition, but we're seeing a lot of computer-related issues with the new cars, reprogram and things like that has to go back to the dealers, so the line item for my vehicle maintenance is definitely seeing the hit. We just received one of our new cruisers. We're waiting for one unmarked and another fully marked coming in as well, but supply chain issues, it's still an issue. Budget-wise, our overtime, we're about a little under 40% through our overtime budget for the year. We have obviously been short. We have collective bargaining agreements that we have to comply and honor. So overtime is it's always a concern, but we do have other supplemental areas that we can, like Shannon does offset that as well. So we do get money to offset some of our overtime spending through grants. With overtime in regard, I haven't had to come back for any money because I haven't been at full staff, so I've been able to move money around through salary. That probably won't be the case this year. I may be, at some point later on in the fiscal year, I may be coming back, depending on the circumstances. So I just want to prepare everybody for that. Building is, again, it's a 10-year-old building, and the stuff that was put in initially on the initial build is starting to fail. We're seeing stuff. You know, we just replaced sensors. When you walk in the room, the sensors pick up the movement in the room and they turn the lights on. They were installed obviously to, if people forget to shut the lights off, it's our spending on energy. So those are starting to fail, and if they fail, the lights don't work. So we see issues like that. Air conditioning, replaced an air conditioning unit on top of the building. Again, a pricey fix. Some other minor issues, and just it's still on capital improvement, but the restuccoing and painting of the building still needs to be done, and it was recommended at 5 years. We're at 10. We just want to make sure it doesn't fall off and getting forgotten about, because the building does need to be maintained. Dispatch is we're short 3 right now. We interview constantly just about for those positions. It's a tough job. The training is tough, and not everybody makes it through the training. So we do see a lot of turnover in the initial stages of the dispatch positions. So we are pretty much in a rolling cycle of interviews, and we don't see the applications that we were before either. So. We're trying to get there, but dispatch is definitely a concern for staffing. Animal control, we have one animal control officer out on FMLA right now for a little while. Other than that, things are pretty static down at the shelter and with animal control, steady with staff, and we're currently hiring 2 animal control facility attendants down at the animal control facility. I think that's about it. Any questions or concerns or thoughts?
This, that you speak of about the mental health.
Sure, CIT.
I have a son that has, since he's been 13, has, severe mental health. It's under control at times. It's very hard if you're not used to dealing with that. Mm-hmm. So I commend you for doing that, because he used to live in Leominster, and he's here. And he's had some, interesting encounters with some, not here.
Sure.
Others. And so I want to say that's a great idea. Thank you.
Well, I think what we're seeing is there's a lot of, officers are trained a certain way, mm-hmm. and they need to be trained in other ways as well. So when you're dealing with somebody who appears to be uncooperative or difficult, a lot of times it was because they were being difficult, but now we're taught to look at it a different way, like maybe there's something else going on here. Should we look a little bit deeper? ask other questions, things like that. And I'm hopeful that, you know, it's going to give us the tools we need to really kind of take ourselves to the next level with that type of thing. You know, I'd love to see co-response clinicians with officers responding to mental health calls. I would love to see that. Obviously, financially, it's a bite. We can look for grant funding for that, but I really think having trained clinicians responding to calls with officers, obviously, safety piece of it as well. You know, we wouldn't expose a civilian to dangers that we didn't have to, but I think having a trained clinician to treat somebody in a mental health crisis is a huge asset for us. Huge asset for us. So, I mean, my officers aren't clinicians, but I'm trying to get them closer to that level. That's kind of what
There's a lot of it around. I'm retired now, so I drive around with my son to get him out, and there's quite a few. And if you don't know, if you're not trained in mental health issues, you think these people are just
difficult,
but they're not.
No,
You know.
no. Autism is a perfect example.
Right.
Somebody could appear to be being difficult, but it's part of what's going on with them, you know, and you need to understand that. So, and we're getting there. We're getting there. We're trying to, you know, get ourselves up to where we need to be to be effective for the community.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So I was actually going to touch on the CIT too, because I tell you, you know, being able to understand or try to understand, be willing to understand where people are coming from, you know, like that's a great thing. Which, you know, when I grew up, it was, you know, he's crazy. That would be the same.
Mm-hmm.
You just, you know, it is what it is. Just keep it moving. But you know, sometimes, you know, understanding why somebody might be, you know, quote unquote crazy is one thing. And I mean, you know, like obviously, besides counseling, you know, I do everything I do on the football teams and everything else. And I, you know, I'm a mental health counselor there 90% of the time, because these kids, they come into the sports and things like that to go ahead and relieve the craziness of what may be happening at home and everything else. So like, you know, they comes a certain type of patience and willing to understand that I respect those. I respect you, especially because you're putting it upon your officers to go ahead and be willing to understand, because everyone's not the same. And you know, and there's traumas and things that trigger certain things. So you know, like, you know, that I know an individual that could never get his driver's license, and I asked him why. He's like, you know, state trooper's boots make me nervous, and he would never go take a state. He still doesn't have his driver's license. He's 55 years old. So you know, it's certain things that trigger certain things, and the fact that you are willing to, you know, go ahead and have your officers be willing to understand that is great. And that's another reason why the Gardner Police Department is one of the best departments in the state. So, you know, thank you.
Thank you. Obviously, I feel that way, you know, but I certainly probably have a bias in that regard, but I'm very proud of our officers. You know, the work they do every day, you know, a lot of times even, you know, having been around it for so long, I'm still in awe of how quickly they resolve things, how usually they resolve things it's the best manner. You know, and like I said, the job has changed a lot in the 30 years that, and one thing's for sure, it's going to continue to change. So we either we figure it out or we fall off. So, but no, I'm very proud of our department and our community. I really am.
Thank you. Fire?
Morning, councils. Okay, I'll start off with a personnel update. And at the time of this report, all budgeted positions at the fire department are filled. Well, I don't believe that is a good reflection of the current situation, though. That kind of paints a rosier picture than there is. And it's certainly not an accurate reflection of our situation right now. So I'm going to go through some points here that give you a better idea of where we are. So as of this coming Sunday, we will no longer be fully staffed.
another firefighter has submitted his resignation, accepting a position at another area fire department. I also have 2 firefighters that are currently deployed on military assignments. One was activated this month for a 1-year deployment to Europe, and the second is expected to return in late January from a 15-month deployment. And he is a recruit firefighter and still has to attend the Mass Recruit Fire Academy. So I'm not anticipating him being in the mix as a full member of the firefighting force till probably May of next year. I also have 4 firefighters that are currently on leave or working modified duty assignments due to both on and off the job injuries and illnesses. They're all extended situations, and at this time none have anticipated return dates. And I also have 3 recruit firefighters that were recently hired over the summer that have started the Mass Fire Academy recruit training program. They're at the Stowe campus for this time. The scheduled class graduation date is December 20th of this year. So at that point, if they all successfully complete the program and graduate, we'll have 3 members that we can put right into regular assignments, and they will help to alleviate the staffing situation that we're facing right now. And on that subject, the fire department overtime account, I've already exceeded the budget for the year. The budgeted amount was $200,000. As of this past payroll, we are at $224,182. That's on the fire side of the budget. The ambulance side is in a little bit better shape, having spent $36,000 of the $70,000, so we're about 52% spent there. As is always the case, the vast majority of the overtime expenses is for backfilling contractually required staffing positions to keep all the trucks fully staffed and rolling on the streets. There has been some vacant positions, so there will be some money that can be, moved to cover some of the overtime. But just like the police chief said, I'm confident there will be a free cash request coming at some point moving forward to offset these expenses. So it's just kind of more of the same at the fire department. We're battling staffing all the time. The guys and girls are working a lot of overtime, a lot of forced overtime, and they're tired. So it's just an ongoing challenge. On the grant side of things, I have completed and submitted the application for the fiscal year 2025 Massachusetts Firefighter Safety Equipment Grant. Based on population, the maximum award amount that Gardner could apply for is $19,000. Most of the funding requested will be replacing older equipment that is either beyond its service life or damaged beyond repair. Some of those items include multiple lengths of hose and a multi-gas combustible and hazardous gas meter for detecting natural gas, propane, other hazardous gases. We are also requesting a new thermal imaging camera, which is the infrared devices that we use to search and operate in zero visibility conditions, smoke-filled environments. They're especially helpful when you're searching for victims in a smoke-filled environment that you have no visibility and everything kind of looks the same and you're going by feel, and a thermal imager can help you identify a victim. We also applied for two new items to us, electric vehicle emergency plugs, which are devices that plug into the charging port of an electric vehicle and they disable the vehicle. that prevents unexpected movement or other power being on in the vehicle. So when firefighters are either operating in an accident scene or a fire involving a vehicle, they can deploy this device and it secures the vehicle. And we are dealing with more and more accidents and fires because of the increasing number of electric vehicles out there on the road. And there is a lot of unique challenges and safety concerns for public safety personnel working around these vehicles. It's a new animal, and the batteries give a lot of unusual challenges that the methods and techniques of dealing with them are still evolving at this point. So it's a real challenge. So the total list of equipment that we've applied for in this grant is 22 lengths of 1 3/4 hose, 14 lengths of 2.5 inch hose, 2 of the emergency vehicle plugs, electric vehicle emergency plugs, excuse me, the thermal imaging camera, and the multi-gas detection meter. The fire department application for the fiscal year 2023 FEMA Assistance to Firefighters Grant, the federal AFG grant program, which we've applied for repeatedly for new portable radios. Again, this year it was not successful. It made it out of technical review and into basically it was approved to be funded. But they ran out of funding before we were in line for the award, so it was not funded. The application period for the fiscal year 24 grant has not opened as of yet. They're saying November, so I will be revising the application and submitting it again for portable radios. The ones we are using now are now 16 years old. They're beyond their life expectancy. We're still using them. They're still, that vast majority of them are still operating okay. But it's really becoming, I mean, that is at this point, that's the top priority item for the fire department as far as equipment goes. Hopefully this year we'll be successful with that grant. On the fleet side of things, the new ambulance was delivered in July, and after local outfitting with equipment here and licensing approval by the State Office of Emergency Medical Services, it was placed in service right around the beginning of September, so it's on the streets now. That was a much needed vehicle to take our 2018 primary ambulance and put that into a reserve status. That was showing had over 100,000 miles and heavy wear and tear from 6 full years of service to the city. The new engine is complete. We did a factory inspection last week on it. Of course, it was scheduled to be completed in July, and there was additional production delays, but it is complete now. It's actually today it's going from the manufacturing plant in Pennsylvania to the dealership in Connecticut, where they're going to do final equipment mounting and final inspections. I'm anticipating probably 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks before it's actually in the city and ready to roll. And the new heavy rescue truck, which is being assembled at the same Sutphen factory in Pennsylvania, is running about a month behind that truck. They had additional production delays with that, waiting for a generator, waiting for other parts that were delayed. But they have everything now, and it's moving forward rapidly now. So hopefully December 1st or so, we'll have that truck in the city. And the contract for the new tower ladder truck has been completed and signed. The manufacturer is a company called E1 out of Ocala, Florida, and the local dealer is Greenwood Emergency Vehicles of Attleboro. And next week we have a pre-construction conference at the dealership in Attleboro to finalize all the construction details of the truck. So the manufacturer at that point will begin ordering components, the motor, the transmission, other outsourced components to be ready for assembly. And they are still on about a 2-year delivery range for that truck. As you've probably noticed, we have a bunch of staging around fire headquarters. They have begun the roof replacement over there. The city's insurance company, Maya, approved a full replacement of that roof following the damage from the February windstorm. They were originally scheduled to start around July 1st, and there was delays due to materials and weather on other jobs. The contractor was delayed on other jobs because of weather issues, so they had to push our start date back. And they were also having trouble getting the roofing products, the metal roofing. So they did begin in September. And of course, there's been additional delays. They've encountered things that had to be addressed. And the first is they're uncovering significant unknown water damage to the substructure of the roof. Taking the old metal roof off is kind of opening the proverbial can of worms, and they're finding stuff that was just not even known to be there. So obviously if you have substructure sheathing that is rotted out, you can't put new roofing material over that, so they had to stop. And that is not part of the insurance coverage because it was existing damage, so we had to go through procurement for this, and just yesterday a DCAM waiver was approved for the full procurement process, so we can move forward with this as emergency repairs. Because the building is now open and exposed to the elements, obviously we don't want to have more interior damage, so we can move forward, and they don't have to go through a bidding process or advertisement process for the project. We can just move forward with it. So that was approved yesterday. The second issue that has basically halted work is concerns about the existing roof sheathing underlayment that the contractor has found that the original roof, of course, it was not installed properly. There was deficiencies, including not being properly secured down to the substructure, which may or may not have contributed to the February failure or to past leaks and other issues we've had. And basically the sheathing is not heavy enough, thick enough to properly install the new roofing material to it. They've had to bring in an engineer to evaluate the structure to make sure the structure can support additional underlayment, and it's just kind of halted the whole project. They've done no work over there this week because of this. And of course that's pushing everything further back. We're open to the weather. The weather is not improving as we move through the month. So they're hoping to have everything lined up and be able to have everything approved and start moving forward with this soon. The underlayment issues, the rotted issue, the rot that has to be replaced, again, is not covered under the insurance settlement, so it's going to fall back to the city. We also had to have the chimney repointed, which is a large brick structure. And that was also done under an emergency repair DCAM waiver just before they started the project. They found significant damage to it. And that was a $26,000 repair for the chimney. The rot issues are estimated to be no more than approximately $40,000. And if that holds true, that's $66,000 of unanticipated costs with this replacement project that are not covered under insurance, that right now I am paying out of the regular repairs and maintenance budget. but there's just not gonna be a way that I'm going to be able to handle all repairs and maintenance, other repairs and maintenance for the building and my vehicles and everything else. We have one repairs and maintenance line item in the budget. And these, the $66,000 for just the roof issues is over 75% of that budget. So I anticipate some other type of funding being pursued to cover this. It's costs we have to pay for. Hopefully, you know, not much else is discovered when they continue the work, but it's a 50-year-old building, and they're uncovering that the original installation of the roof was not proper, so I don't want to guess on what else they're going to uncover. And just an update on the year so far for the fire department. So far, we've answered just about 4,800 emergency calls for service. If that current pace continues through the end of the year, that projects out to just over 6,000 calls, which would be an increase of approximately 5% over last year. So it's another busy year. That's my report.
Questions?
Yeah, I mean, thank you, but, you know, when you started off, I was ready to applaud when you said 100%. And then, and then it just started going down.
Yeah.
You know, you said you had a couple, you know, being deployed back and forth. You got one that's retired and you got another you have two that are going to other areas, or is it one?
One resigned to go to another area. Yeah. I've got 4 out on either modified duty or injury leave.
Yeah, and then you have the 3 in the academy.
3 in the academy and 2 deployed, yeah.
You know, so, I mean, I was trying to do the math while I was sitting there doing it, and I think that means it's still gonna be short, you're not gonna be 100%. You know, obviously, fire department needs help. That's what it seems like, and that's what I got out of what you were saying. And that's what I'm getting. So that's all I gotta say is, I guess the fire department needs help. You know, thank you for the updates.
You're welcome. It's been challenging. It continues to be challenging. And we're plugging our way through it, trying to keep everything staffed.
Gotcha.
You seem very calm. What your insides look like, I don't know, but, you know, God bless you, you got your hands full, and things are tough. The first statement you gave was, I was like, I was like, boy, that's great.
I was right there.
Yeah.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the update.
You're welcome.
Good work.
Thank you.
Last but not least, public comment.
Good morning. All right, so the health department is fully staffed as of about 2 weeks ago. We hired another administrative assistant. So our office is now completely full. We've actually had to chop our reception area in half to make room for the new hire. So we're still looking for options as far as getting ourselves into a more appropriate space. Which we had some options out there, but we're not real sure where they're at with like Waterford Street School or finding some other office space in City Hall somewhere. So we had one positive EEE mosquito sample that was taken on October 1st. They basically pool the mosquitoes by species and then test them. So I don't know if it was one mosquito or multiple. And it was found in a species that mainly feeds on birds, which is good news. Spraying for mosquitoes wasn't advised, or is still not advised, because of the really small window that mosquitoes would be active, would not match up with the timing of when the spray would be applied. So we just went out with some messaging just to tell people to take extra precautions. And now with temperatures the way they've been over the past couple nights, there's really no more threat from mosquitoes for this year, but it'll be interesting just to see if it was an anomaly or if we get more triple E mosquitoes in the area next year. So we'll definitely keep an eye on that. The sampling is ended for the season, and there was one final round of sampling after the positive, and that had no more positive results. We held, 5 COVID and flu vaccine clinics at Hillside, Gar West, Benalla House, Polish American Citizen Clubs, and City Hall. The clinics were pretty well attended, pretty evenly attended across all of the clinics. So we're happy with how that went. COVID numbers are increasing as they're kind of rolled in with all the other respiratory illnesses now, like cold and flu. So it is the season for that. But we do have free COVID tests available at the health department. And we'll try to keep ordering those to have those on hand as much as we can. We did have one fatal pediatric case of bacterial meningitis in Gardner. And fortunately it was isolated. We work with the Montechusett Public Health Network for our nursing services. So they were able to jump right in and identify all the close contacts and get intervention treatments administered to anybody who needed that. So it was an isolated incident. For the landfill, we just opened the bid invitation for repairing the landfill this week. The goal is to repair eroded let-down channels that divert surface water to the proper areas. So we're looking to complete at least one portion of it. It has 3 to 4 sections of the landfill that need work, so we're hoping to get at least one piece of that done this winter, late fall. That project also includes replacement of some groundwater monitoring wells that have been damaged for quite some time. So we're now going to be repairing those so that we make sure we're monitoring the groundwater as best we can. Also out at the landfill and the transfer station, our loader blew a turbine in the turbo, so that was a $5,000 repair. The loader has had transmission issues for no one really knows how long, but for quite a while. We were looking to get that repaired as well, but that would be another $30,000 to $40,000 just for that. So at this point, we're looking to start setting some money aside, and we'll be needing a new piece of equipment out there at some point in the next probably year or two. So a new or used machine runs right around $240,000, and there doesn't seem to be a big significance in money savings with getting a used machine. They still seem to be about $220,000, $200,000 for that. So that's coming down the line at some point. I'm still looking into facilities for the transfer station. So I got a couple preliminary quotes for, like, if I wanted to do a modular office, it'd be around $140,000 for something like that. I also looked into a container office style building that would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $40,000. But we really do need to figure out some way to get some permanent bathroom facilities out there, and just a better work environment for the transfer station monitor other than our tough shed that we have going. Let's see here. We'll go on to food inspections. We had a few unrelated cases of Campylobacter pop up in August. So we did inspections at any of the establishments that were reported where the patients ate. We didn't really find anything that could connect any of the cases together. And of all the foodborne illnesses complaints that we received, we haven't been able to connect any of those complaints to any actual issues at restaurants. We will inspect for every single complaint that we get. So that was good news there. Housing inspections, we have been extremely busy with housing complaints, and just this week with the temperatures, we started to get a lot of no heat complaints, which are usually difficult to tackle because there's a lot of elements there, whether someone has the funds to afford their heating oil or if their system's broken, just trying to help occupants and landowners navigate their way through that. We are also making some progress with the abandoned housing initiative, as far as we have one property in town that we're trying to get into a receivership so that it can be brought back up to sellable condition and then sold to a new property owner. So we're trying to work on more houses in town because we do have a lot of unoccupied buildings that are falling into disrepair that could be moved on to better owners or better uses. So we're gonna keep working on that and keep sending properties to the Attorney General's office to see if they would be appropriate for that program. I also just learned about, there's kind of a pilot program from the Childhood Lead Poisoning Prevention Program, where they're anticipating a fairly large grant to de-lead units in certain communities. So they're looking to start as part of a pilot program to de-lead a few properties in Gardner using that money. So we're going to be waiting on more information as far as that goes. But that would be fantastic news to get that taken care of. We have had a handful of children with elevated lead levels or elevated to the point where it's considered lead poisoning. So we are continuing to look at that. For prevention, Veronica, our prevention coordinator, did an overdose awareness event at Monument Park in August 28th. She did a Project Redemption exhibit event on September 16th. September 8th to 16th, she did the Game Changer workshop at the Gardner High School. On October 1st, we were finally able to have our national night out that had to be rescheduled from August due to weather. And then October 7th, we held a domestic violence vigil. And I think that is all I have for you at the moment.
Any questions?
No, I don't really know.
Yeah, I had a couple questions. We can clap because you're 100% staff now, right? I'm sorry.
We are, yeah.
Because when you first started, I was like, oh, I fell for this at first. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
So one of the things just in my notes, I seen that you basically said you guys may need a bigger office. I noted that down, just in my notes. But I just needed probably clarity for the people at home. I deal with sports. I'm out there in the fields. Triple E season. Do these mosquitoes have like clocks and they come out at night because they're like curfews? Why is that?
I think it's mostly related to air temperature and just their natural cycle of when they're active. It's usually from dusk till a little bit after sunset. So that is peak mosquito activity time. So it's unfortunate that it lines up with after school activities. So it's just kind of the warmest, nicest part of the day for them.
All right, like, to be honest with you, I hate bugs. Like,
Same.
last year, the missus had me on a budget. We never treated our yard. Mosquitoes were out. I never touched my pool, like at all. I didn't even open the pool because of it. Like, I don't like bugs. And you just said that the triple E bug that came, or that was found, was a different species. I didn't even know the different mosquito species. Sorry, it's just specifically for birds.
Not specifically, but primarily, it will feed on people and other animals, but it's mainly historically known to feed like on birds. I believe about by 80% of its diet comes from birds. And you actually brought up another good thing is that we are part of the Central Massachusetts Mosquito Control Project. So residents of town can actually call them and schedule free treatment. They'll treat pools, they'll do a spray of your backyard, and it's at no cost. So.
Wish I would have known that last year. I've been swimming.
Yep.
One other thing, are there grants or, have you looked into the possibility of getting grants to help with the cost of getting a structure for the transfer station?
I have been looking for grants. Haven't been able to find anything specifically for structures. I did apply for a grant to get a shipping container just to act as basically a small swap shop to just increase recycling in town. But I haven't been able to come across anything as far as that goes. But I actually wrote myself a note to keep looking for those. So we will do that for sure.
Yeah, that was my only notes. I mean, I don't know if there's grants, but I just happen to find out there's grants for weird things.
Yeah, there's a lot out
And
there.
there's grants for things that, then there isn't grants for things that you feel like there should be grants for. So, like, I think if there's a possibility of getting help, that would
Yeah.
help us help you help, so.
They had a very large, they called it a technical assistance grant for landfills, and it was a lot of money, but you had to be related to recycling only, like building more recycling facilities or increasing your capacity. It had to be all along those lines, and there was just no way to get it to line up to what we were looking for. So we will keep looking.
Understood. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, thank you very
All
much.
right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Department updates is done. Old business, item 11204, an ordinance to amend the code of the city of Gardner, chapter 600, entitled Vehicles and Traffic, section 24, entitled Parking Preview on certain streets, Edgehill Street from Elm Street to Warren Street. So at this time, we have now had a public hearing on this item. This item came to us to traffic. We had a public hearing. We've now referred it back to traffic. It is now back to us to make a recommendation to the full city council. The last traffic meeting, the traffic commission stood by their assessment. Basically, if someone complains about a street, they go out and measure and make a recommendation based on the guidelines of the street. According to the guidelines and measurements of the street, there should be parking only on one side, but it is up to the city council to codify that. So we can ignore the traffic commission, or we can recommend and vote to codify this permanently. Right now, it's just there on a temporary basis between the DPW and the police department. So I'll entertain any discussion to a motion on this item.
So I would like to recommend, make a motion to present this to the whole city council as a as presented? Is that what you're
Are
asking?
you recommending approval of this item, or are you against this item?
I'm recommending approval.
I agree.
So, second.
That's a second.
All right, so there's a motion by Counselor Heath, second by Counselor Harden to recommend approval to the full council. Is there any debate on the motion? I'll say that Counselor Tijuana did go along the street and basically asked everyone their opinion. And he said he had about 50-50 split, that half were in favor, half were not. Mostly the complaints were about the signs and where they were located. Any more discussion? Okay.
Well, I think there's always someone that's not going to agree with it, you know, for whatever their reason is. But if the traffic committee accepted this, and I agree with it, I'm definitely a yes with this.
Yeah, same here. From my understanding, the last time we met, we were waiting to hear back from Officer Maloney. Am I correct? On this
If
situation.
I may,
Yes.
I believe the deputy chief was just previous, he was gonna graduate from the National Academy just before this, when this discussion first came up. I do recall there was a petition, and there were multiple people who spoke at the public hearing on it. And my take on, like, I understand the measurements. I think it was 10 feet for each lane and then 8 feet on each side for parking, to have both sides of the road you can have parking on. The road, I don't believe, is wide enough under those guidelines. The way I kind of left it was it's their neighborhood. But I also, so it's kind of that balance, like it's their neighborhood, but these are the regulations, like where do you want to kind of go with it? You can access from both sides, so it's not like there's only one way in, one way out. There's multiple access points for Edgell Street. So again, I understand the regulations, but I also understand their need to keep, their neighborhood the way they like it. So we only did hear from one side of that coin, I believe. The people who did not want it, I don't believe anybody spoke in favor of it at that point. I don't recall hearing anybody that spoke in favor of it at that point. But I guess it's kind of that balance. So.
Other discussion?
So, so you brought up a great point on the fact that, obviously I just, asked for it to be put to the city council as a whole for approval. However, if there really isn't any complaints and it's 50-50 in a neighborhood, it's not an emergency vehicle neighborhood, am I right?
I think, so Edgell Street you can access from obviously from Elm Street or Comey on the other side. So you can still get from either side. So if like there was a potential obstruction in the middle, I know the fire chief could probably weigh in on this in terms of fire apparatus and ambulances and things like that. So if there were to be some type of bottleneck, potentially, on the off chance that there was a call or whatever else, I think you could access from either side.
Yeah, and there's also a cross street in the middle,
Right.
Western Street.
Western.
I'm not aware of any issues that we've had up there with access, so.
Again, I understand it's just the neighborhood, it's their neighborhood, and if it's a problem, but I didn't hear anybody speak in favor of, I didn't anyways. So,
Again, just to reiterate, what we're looking for here is a recommendation to the full council. We can recommend the full council
Yeah, I would actually
approve
withdraw.
it, recommend they don't approve it, we can have a split vote.
Yeah, so I'm gonna actually withdraw my motion to put in front.
I'm going to suggest you keep your motion, but you don't have to vote yes, that you recommend approval.
All right, then that's great then. I apologize. So I'll go ahead and go over this again. I would like to recommend 11204 to the city council as a whole for approval.
Second.
All right, so the recommendation for approval to the full city council. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm gonna say no. So, 2 in favor of the ordinance and 1 against. And then we'll have that discussion on Monday.
That's perfect.
Any other new business?
I have none.
Well, I have, to all these gentlemen sitting here, thank you for what you do.
You're welcome.
It never goes unnoticed. The stress you guys must deal with on a day-to-day basis is amazing. Thank you.
So,
Motion to adjourn?
so move.
Second. Motion by Councilor Heath, second by Councilor Gardner to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.